Hey everyone, it's me again, and I got a few requests on doing another tutorial. I did a tutorial about a month back, I think, on how to make a superhero mask, and I will link that at the bottom because it's not on this page, it's on my Geeks of the Week page, so you can go check that out. But this time I'm going to teach you all how to make a superhero style cape. So I'm not going to be making a cape while I make this tutorial because my sewing machine is broken and I don't need to make a cape for anything anytime soon. So I'm just going to put up some pictures of patterns and you can kind of figure it out from there. Don't worry, I will totally guide you along the way. So first you need to figure out what kind of cape you're making. Are you making a cape that'll sit on your shoulder so it's like a half circle, or are you making a full circle that'll go all the way down and you'll just like throw it over your shoulders to keep it out of the way? All of my capes are actually half circles because I just feel like a full cape is really odd on me because I'm really small. Like I said, this is half. I just have it clipped up. There's a clip there. And it almost goes down to the front, but for me, I just don't find it totally necessary. It's a personal preference on what you want and what kind of photos you want to take in your costume. This one that I can't actually hook all the way up because I'm wearing a turtleneck is a little less than a half circle, and that's because I'm really dinky and don't have a full half circle, so I actually made it smaller so it sits on my shoulders. Once again, it just really depends on the type of cape you're making and what kind of effect you want it to look like in the end. So once you know what kind of cape you're going to make, it's time to actually pattern out and cut the fabric. So let's take a look at what kind of shape you're looking for. So if you're doing a half circle like I did, that's the general layout. Don't mind random costume on that side. But yeah, that's general layout. See, it's a half circle with like a little half circle in the very middle because that's where your neck has to go. So if you want to make something that actually sits on your shoulders, like my Amekami one, which is the black one, I kind of showed you how much you'll probably have to take off. I can't give you an exact measurement or angle or something because it really just depends on you and your body type. But that'll just give you just on how much I had to cut off because I'm pretty effing tiny. And then if you're making a circle pattern, it should look something like this, except not as awful because this is a napkin and I didn't measure it. But the general idea is that you have your neck hole in the center and then you have a complete circle around it. An easy way to do that is just fold in half and then fold it in half again. And then you can use awesome math skills to figure out how big your opening for your neck should be. So you just measure your neck and you figure out all that math crap. And then for however long you want your cape to be, say you want it to be 20 inches long, I don't know. So you want to measure 20 inches from this point to this point, and then this point to this point, and that point to that point. So you need 20 inches all the way from there, there. And even if it's not completely even, there's just so much fabric that you can't really tell anyway, and it's draped everywhere, so no one will notice if you accidentally oops somewhere along the way. Once you know what your pattern is going to look like, it's time for you to actually like cut out the fabric. Of course, you'll need to figure out beforehand if you're going to double up the fabric or you're just going to have a single layer of fabric. I personally like to double up my fabric unless it's something that's really, really heavy and I still want to billow, something like my Hit Girl cape, which is not here at the moment. It's in a space bag somewhere in my bed. But I didn't line that one. That one's just single piece of fabric because it's gigantic. However, this one is lined. This is my Damien cape and it's the same color, but I just wanted it to be a bit thicker and heavier because I feel like that's kind of more Damien style anyway. Obviously you're going to have to line it if your cape has two different colors on it. So you'll have the actual cape part and then you'll have the lining underneath. So make sure you just cut out the fabric the exact same size, otherwise you're going to have the biggest headache ever later. Once you've cut out both pieces of the actual cape, you're going to obviously want to sew them together. Make sure that the two good sides are together because you're obviously going to flip it inside out, and just sew all the way along the edge of the cape. I like to keep the neck part open because that's where you're going to be turning it inside out, and I just feel like that's the easiest part because you have to attach a collar anyway, and so you'll be sewing that up later. So after you have sewn the cape all the way around, flip it inside out and you'll want to do a top stitch on it. This is really important so that your cape doesn't look all blah and it stays nicely together. First, you definitely want to iron it before you do that top stitch, because ironing makes everything beautiful and wonderful and you'll thank me for it later. Just iron it first. Remember to have a different color thread for when you're doing the top stitch if you have a cape that has two different fabric colors in it. So obviously I wanted one side black and one side yellow, and that's just changing the bobbin for whatever color the bottom fabric is, which one's going to be on there, and just putting that. So for instance, if I was sewing this like this, I would keep the top thread black and I would change the bobbin to be yellow. Make sense? I hope so. So the next part is the collar, and you could have actually cut out the collar pieces before. I've just kind of been going in order of like cape, collar, then attaching and putting it on, things like that. But you can do that at the beginning. So it really just depends what kind of collar you want for your cape. My Hit Girl one had a collar like this. It was kind of angled back and sloped. This is obviously another paper towel because I'm really cool like that. The easiest way to make a pattern for the collar is just do half a pattern, and then you can like use this part and just fold the fabric over just on the fold and then cut it out. Make sure that this length is half of the neck length of your cape, or else your collar is going to be either too long or too short. Other types of collars could be like a flat one, which I used for my Omikami, or you can have something that's folded over and that's just a diagonal kind of edge here that goes out, and then you flip it over. I would definitely recommend putting in some interfacing. It doesn't have to be the exact size, it just needs to be in there so your collar doesn't flop over and look really stupid. Another option is you can put a cape on yours like how I did with my Damien one. There are a few different ways to make a hood. There's like this really basic generic looking hood that's not an actual size. I just freehanded that from memory on, you guessed it, more paper towels. But that's generally the shape if you want to make something big like that, and then just sew two and then you sew down there. Or you can do how I did my Damien hood because I wanted to make it a little bigger. I essentially have this shape again, and then I add like this piece, and this isn't long enough, but it would go all the way around, and then you have another one of these pieces, so it's kind of like sandwiched in there. And obviously with whichever type of collar you want to make, you'll want to make two of them because one's going to be the inside, one's going to be the outside. So sew that all together around however long it is, and then fold it over and do the same thing as you do with the cape. Put a top stitch on it, and remember, if it's two different sides for two different colors, make sure you change up the bobbin for that. So once your collar or your hood is all done, it's actually time to attach it to the cape, which can be really, really simple depending on what you have available to you or if you're just lazy. So I have a serger, and that makes life really, really easy. So I actually just took it and serged the two together. You put them together and then it's together. Yay! Ta-da! If you don't have a serger but you still feel like doing it that way, you totally can. The problem is it's going to end up fraying, and unless you want to put like fray check on it, or you want to do like some crazy zigzagging pattern, or you have those pinking scissors that won't make it fray, whatever, that's up to you. If you don't want it to fray, the best way to do it is kind of put the collar into the cape and you fold over the cape so it's like sandwiched in between. Hold on, let me see if I can get the paper and demonstrate this. Okay, so here's the top part of your cape, right? So you would fold down the edge along where your neck seam is. Obviously there's two, so you fold down the pieces so they're nice and smooth on one side, and then you would literally just stick the collar with the frayed edges in between it, so it makes this like really Well, that's not very pretty. And then you just do a top stitch along there, and that'll work perfectly. So now you have to figure out how to attach the two fronts together so it actually stay around your neck. This kind of comes down to a personal preference on how you made the collar or how you want it to look in the front, because it really just kind of depends. For my Amekami cape, it is literally just 3 hook and eyes, which is actually one of those bra extenders you can buy at Joann's. And I just cut it in half, and then it just hook and eyes to the front, and then done. Easy peasy. For my Damian Wayne one, it's kind of the same concept. He has a bit of black that comes together right before his hood goes up. It's almost like a little mini collar before the hood. So I added an extra little black piece that kind of comes up here. And once again, it's another bra hook and eye, and this one has 2 because it's thinner than the other one, and it literally just hooks together in the front. My Burt Ward cape was a bit more complicated. It actually has a snap. I don't know if you can see the snap, but there's a snap there. It just snaps in. It has kind of like a little attachment piece that goes a little further so it can overlap each other. And my Hit Girl cape and another cape I made for my friend who did Harley Quinn, the DC Universe Online one. It has one of the giant hook and eyes that are like this big, and it's like hooks there, and there's just one going across there. So it really just depends on what kind of cape you have. Like I said, if you have ones that actually go on the neck, the bra hooks are totally the way to do it. It makes things really, really easy, and that way you don't see it. I've seen people do zippers, but that can be really complicated, and a lot of times you can't find a zipper that's small, and altering zippers can be a pain in the butt, especially when you want it to come apart. But that's just my personal preference. I've even seen people do it with like Velcro, more snaps. Yeah. Obviously, depending on what you're using for a closure, it just depends on how you're going to put it on. Most of the hook and eyes, I have used my sewing machine to just sew together. I just kind of sewed it in. You can be cheap and lazy and just put it on the back like I do sometimes if I'm in a rush, or you can actually like open up part of the collar. It's easier when you have like one of these kind of collars and you leave the edge open here, so you can just kind of fold it in and sandwich it in between kind of deal. I don't suggest using hot glue or glue of any kind, because even though I can be a really terrible cosplayer and just hot glue things for the last minute type deal stuff, there's a lot of stress being put on to that one little spot, and capes are pretty heavy and like they're constantly moving, and you just don't want to like strain that one part a lot or else it's going to come off. And so that's why I choose to sew all of my closures on, because I think they're going to stay a lot better than just by using glue. So yeah, that's essentially how you make a cape. If you guys have any questions, feel free to comment below. I'll keep tab of all the comments and put them in the info section of the video, so you guys can scroll through that in case someone has already answered your question. Hopefully I can answer your questions. Like I said, I'm not the greatest seamstress out there. I just kind of make things up as I go along and hope for the best. But I'll try to help you guys as much as I can. So leave some comments if you have questions, and I wish you all the best of luck. So I hope you all are doing well, and I'll talk to you all later.